Hello and welcome to £100 and Counting. My name is Sarah and I'm on a journey to lose £100 with Slimming World. So it's Saturday morning again. 9 weeks on plan already now. I've no idea where that time is going, but it is time for me to go and do my weekly weigh-in. So I'm just heading off to my Slimming World meeting. So far, there's been a definite pattern to my weight losses week by week. I've been fluctuating between, a big loss one week and barely moving the needle the next. So far, there's been a definite pattern to my weekly weight losses. I've been fluctuating between a big loss one week and a barely moving the needle the next. This week, on that basis, would be a low week because I had a good week last week. I had £3 off last week. This time last month, I lost just half a pound. That was on the back of I think a £3.5 loss, and then the week after I had a £4.5 loss. So you see what I mean. This week, so we're not expecting to see much, assuming that pattern holds steady. So yeah, well, I guess we'll find out. I mean, 9 weeks isn't a large data pool to pull from, but it'd be interesting to see if that happens again. But it's certainly not a reason not to show up. Consistency is key, so we are going anyway. I've had a solid week on plan this week. No hiccups, no dramas. If you've watched my recent videos, you'll know I was struggling to find a good balance for my SWIPs every day. I wanted to use, most of them, and I was just struggling with that, finding myself at the end of the day kind of still with quite a lot to use, and I made a concerted effort over that this week. And I think just being mindful throughout the day and adding those small additions to meals, which helped me to use them up throughout the day instead of building them all up and using them at the end. That definitely helped. I felt a lot better about that. It felt healthier, so that's been successful. I'm happy with that, and I'll carry that on going forward. But with no further ado, let me get off to my meeting, and I'll be back with my results with you shortly. It'll just be a blink of an eye for you. And here I am back at home now after my meeting. So yes, it was a really good meeting actually, and I lost half a stone on my way in. No, I didn't. I lost half a pound on my way in. Sorry. Yes, half a pound on my way in, which is consistent with that pattern I was just talking to you about. So that's absolutely fine. I'm quite happy with that, given that it was expected in that way. If the pattern holds true again next week, I'll have a really good loss. So let's just get cracking with week 10. That said, before I do that, I've got my jar that I'm keeping a track of my weight loss through. So with half a pound loss, I've got 1 pebble to add to that. So that keeps growing. It's 20 pounds, 20.5 pounds is now what I've lost in these 9 weeks. So I didn't quite make that 1.5 stone award today, which I'll get once I hit 21 pounds. Good chance of doing that next week, of course. So yeah, I still somehow managed, even though I only lost half a pound, to get, well, a joint Slimmer of the Week award. So somebody else had a good loss, and then she put me on it as well. So I got another certificate. I don't quite understand why. I'm fairly certain she made a mistake, but I didn't like to question her about it in the middle of the class. So yeah, if anybody understands kind of how they decide how Slimmer of the Week is awarded, I'd be interested to know. But we shared. I let the lady who actually deserved it have the lion's share of the box, but brought a couple of bits home that she wasn't too keen on anyway. So yeah, that was a nice twist anyway for the class. There's no changes I want to make this week to the plan. I'm going to carry on as I've been doing. The plan is clearly working for me. I'm really happy with it. And actually that is what I want to talk about today is the fact that, why is the plan working so well for me? Because, sure, I'm following the rules. I'm on the Slimming World plan. I'm counting my SWIPs. I'm tracking everything on the app. But that isn't all I'm doing. I'm backing it up with everything I've learned about myself through my previous attempts to lose weight, whether, fairly successful or, complete failures. Things like recognizing what my triggers are, where I've gone off track before, what caused that, what led to that, and identifying those triggers in my daily life and coming up with plans to, work around them. I'm applying concepts that I've read about that resonated with me and made sense, and some of those for the first time. And I'm taking things from other plans that I've followed in the past, the things that worked for me on those plans, and I'm applying them in the here and now. So, what kind of things am I talking about? My main trigger is really anything that takes me out of my routine. My routine is absolutely key to my consistency. A few weeks ago, I had a couple of social events, like back to back in the same week, and I needed a plan to handle that because that was going to be out of my routine. How I handled it that week was to lay out a different plan, and that was to do a flexi SWIP week. And I got real specific about the SWIPs I would use on each individual day of that week. So I knew how many I was saving for the events themselves. I went online and I looked at the menus for the restaurants we were eating at. I worked out what I could eat within those, increased SWIP counts that I'd created for those days. And that plan, it worked. Being organised and depending on that plan instead helped me get through it. Now, it still wasn't easy. I definitely felt that it was challenging, and I recall speaking about it in an earlier video, but because I'd put those alternative plans in place, I was able just to, tell myself, recognise what I was feeling, tell myself all I needed to do was follow this other plan, and then I could get back on my routine, kind of just held to it, worked through it, and got to the end of the week, and, it was a success. Took a big breath of relief and got back on my routine. Later this year, I've got a couple of holidays planned, and these are going to be my biggest challenges that I will face completely. I have never once, and I mean never, ever once, gone on holiday, come back and got straight back on plan. It never happened. It's never happened. So I'll be having to put some serious thought into how do I stop that from happening this time? Like, what do I need to do? What plans do I need to set in place? How am I going to manage that? Because I don't want that to happen again. It can't happen. I need to stay on the plan. I have a feeling that you guys will actually be a big help in that. This is, having the channel is something new in terms of how I've approached weight loss before. It's not just about letting me down. I'd be letting you down if I came off plan and didn't stick to it. So I think that'll be key. I'll be giving that a lot of thought though as I approach those times. Other things that I've brought into the plan this time with me are some concepts I've read about in books, such as Why Do We Eat Too Much by Andrew Jenkinson, where I learnt about my metabolism and how it's affected by dieting and how to protect my metabolism whilst on a weight loss plan. That's the main reason I am trying to use all my SWIPs up in these early stages of the programme. Another book was Atomic Habits by James Clear. That gives me a framework that I can apply to building the better habits that I am trying to create in this healthy lifestyle, and to break bad habits that I've carried into it. And another one is Fast Like a Girl by Mindy Pelz. I think I spoke about that. I think it might have even been last week. But that's about, a program for intermittent fasting that supports your hormones at the same time. Being in perimenopause, that's really important to me. I do tend to find I lean in quite naturally to intermittent fasting once I've been following, like a healthy eating plan for a while. As I start to just be able to trust my hunger signals better, it's something that I find I'm naturally able to do. So that's already starting to now build into a part of my approach. And something else I learned from was a program called Whole30. Now, you might have heard of it yourselves, although it's not as well known here in the UK as it is in the States. The Whole30 program at its core is an elimination diet designed to help people identify specific food sensitivities that they may have that are leading to some health issues. But it's more than that as well. It's a reset button. For 30 days, you follow a strict protocol of eating whole foods over 3 balanced meals a day. There's a ton of rules around the program. Most importantly, it's the food that you cut out. So there are food groups that are known to cause sensitivities and issues, skin issues, breathing issues, also energy issues, all sorts of things. And yeah, you cut those out. So things like sugar, grains, gluten, dairy, alcohol, sugar, that's not even the end of the list. It's quite thorough. Basically, though, you're left with meat, eggs, vegetables, fruit, and healthy fats. So you commit to eating 3 meals a day. There's no intermittent fasting to be done on the programme. So each meal is a balance of protein and healthy fats with the vegetables to kind of flesh it out and fill you up. And after 30 days, really, you should be feeling about as good as you can. If any of the issues that you might have are actually being caused by what's in your diet. What you then do is you start reintroducing those foods you've been cutting out one by one. You're supposed to take a few days over each and kind of be mindful about it, watch for any symptoms reoccurring, and then you're able to identify what food groups you are eating that may be, creating those issues for you. And then you can decide whether you want to leave them out going forward. The part of the Whole30 program that I've brought forward with me is the ability to create those balanced meals, meals that are high in protein, have some fats. I don't, tend to go for a lot of the reduced fat options on foods. I'll take the SWIP counts or I'll use my healthy extras to cover those. And that enables me to have meals that are satisfying and keep me going right through to my next meal. And this means that just snacking is at an absolute minimum. It's a key component of how I'm meal planning, and I do think it's a big part of my success so far. I could really spend a lot more time with you on each of these topics, and it is something I plan to do content-wise in future videos. Get into a real deep dive on these concepts and how they can help support a steady weight loss. Right now, I'm specifically working on content related to Atomic Habits by James Clear, but it'll be at least another month, I think, before that's ready. I'm currently rereading the book, which will actually be my 3rd time through the book, but I've also just got myself set up to do an online course that James Clear has made on the Masterclass platform about his work. So I think that is really going to help me get some real insightful information for me to share with you as well. So I'm going to wait till I've done that and then pull it all together. But that's it for me for this week. I'll have another healthy eating, slimming world friendly recipe for you midweek. If you haven't seen my latest recipe videos, they'll be available here on links for you to follow through, or you can find them in the recipes playlist on the channel. I hope you all have great weeks. Thank you so much for watching through the video. Your support here in the comments, your very generous time given to come and reach out to me and, wish me well on this journey that I'm on. It means more to me than you know. I'm pretty overwhelmed by it. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching today again, and goodbye.